So for the past month, I have been conducting an experiment on my YouTube community page, doing a poll tournament, seeing who is everybody's favorite Berserk character. Who would ultimately come up on top if we put all of them into a voting system and said who is everybody's favorite character? Not the strongest character, not the most well-written character, but who is your favorite character? I also decided to exclude Guts, Casca, and Griffith because I felt like if they were involved in the tournament, it wouldn't really be as fun because everybody would just vote for those characters. Guts would obviously win. I don't really think there's any doubt in my mind that Guts would ultimately win the tournament if that was the case. So I decided to take the core three out of the tournament and then just run it that way. And then besides that, I added in every single character I could think of. I did exclude a few. Like, I didn't include minor characters like the Queen because I figured nobody would vote for her. I didn't include Adonis because what did Adonis do? He's just a kid that didn't practice his sword training and then got stabbed. He's a stupid kid. And then I also didn't include characters like Gambino and Donovan because I felt like if I put those in, people would just troll vote for them and they wouldn't really be voting on who the favorite character was. They would just vote for Donovan to just kind of be like, the Berserkle jerk crowd would go for them. So I decided to leave them out because of that. So everyone else that was left, I put together, and I figured if I did the tournament 2x2 the entire way, it would just take way too long. It would take several months to go through. So I did elimination rounds first, and I did 4 people in one poll, and then the winner of those would eventually go on to another one. And then I got it down to about 14 main characters, and then I did a 2x2 bracket system to get to the ultimate eventual winner. And we have a winner. And spoiler alert, Skull Knight won the tournament in the final round against motherfucking Zod. And I was actually a little bit shocked about how much he won by, how many votes he won by. But I wanted to go through the tournament real quick for you guys and just give you my overall thoughts, because the main thing for me about doing this Berserk character tournament is realizing how different of an opinion you guys have about these characters than I do, because almost every single character that I voted for or would have voted for did not win their respected rounds. And a lot of rounds, I tried to choose characters to put together that I thought would be heavy competition, and it turned out to be no competition at all. So clearly, the way that I think about a lot of these characters is absolutely different than how you guys think about them. So let's just go through them real quick and just look over the results just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So first of all, I put the Band of the Hawk in the first one. Now, I'm not surprised that Judo won this because Judo has a ton of fans. Many, many people love Judo. Personally, I voted for Rickert. I like Rickert more than Judo, and I'm a little bit surprised about how low of votes that Pippin got, because Pippin's a badass, dude. Pippin's there. He's blocking apostles. He's telling people to run. He barely opens his eyes, but when he does, you know that shit's going down, I would have voted for Rickert, but Judo won. I'm not surprised about that. Corcus got 3% of the votes. Listen, man, Corcus is all of us. I think that a lot of Berserk fans, we want to think that we're just like Guts. He's just like me for real. But I think if you really searched your soul, I think you're probably a lot more like Corcus than you are any of the other Band of the Hawk members or Berserk characters. I'm just saying. Maybe it's a reflection of yourself that you don't want to see. So the next one, I did the new group. So I did Farnese, Serpico, Isidro, and Shurike. And this one I'm not so surprised about because this one was pretty close. As you can see, Shurike won with 35%, then Serpico at 30%, and then Farnese at 25%. So they're all relatively close. I didn't think Isidro would win. My bias aside, even though he's my least favorite of the 4, he still does have a lot of fans, but I don't think he has as much characterization as the other 3. I am a little bit surprised that Farnese didn't win this round, though, because although I really like Shurike, I think that Farnese has the best character development in the story besides Guts himself, so I'm really surprised that she didn't get more because of that. But what I found doing these polls and reading some of the comments is that there's a lot of people that still don't like Farnese. They still hate her from her introduction and who she was when she was first put into the story. So I thought that was really interesting too. So the next one I did, this one, all right. So this one I was surprised about because I thought this was heavy competition. Like, other than Rosine, I figured Rosine probably wouldn't win this one. But I figured listen, I'm a little bit of a Roderick simp. All right, I fucking love Roderick. I think he's a badass. He's a gentleman. He's brave. He's a ship captain. He's got noble status. He's like always putting Farnese up on like the highest regards. Like he's such a gentleman. He's such a suave dude. He's got a sweet haircut. He's got a whole crew of shipmates. Listen, all right. Maybe I'm a little gay for Roderick, okay? Maybe just a little bit. But at the very least, okay, my own bias aside, I didn't necessarily think Roderick would win this. But by putting Roderick here in this particular bracket, I honestly thought it would make the competition a little bit stiffer. Like, I didn't think he would get more votes than Skull Knight or Puck, but I didn't think he would get 5%, okay? I was thinking maybe he'd get like 10 to 12%, but not 5. Okay, you guys are seriously sleeping on Roderick. You got to go back and reread the manga because Roderick is an absolute badass. What other man, without ever experiencing any kind of demonic entities in his entire life, as soon as demon fucking tigers break into a party and start attacking people, what does he do? Does he run? Does he scream? Does he look for help? No, he takes out his sword and starts fucking fighting tigers. Like, what a badass, All right, anyways. I at least thought that maybe Puck and Skull Knight would have like a little bit closer, but you guys just like went straight for Skull Knight. And look, I understand he's Skull Knight. I think my favorite comment out of the entire poll was in one, I don't remember which one it was, but somebody commented, why Skull Knight has so many votes. And somebody replied, because he is the Skull Knight. I'm just like, fuck it, you're right. He is the Skull Knight. All right, so the next one. This one, I'm not surprised. I put Griffith's new Band of the Hawk together. I'm not surprised that motherfucking Zod won because he is motherfucking Zod. He's a badass. He's the warmongering, hardcore, like one of the first apostles that we ever see. One that has a really strong connection with Guts. He's sort of a parallel to Guts. Story-wise, thematic-wise, character-wise, I completely understand. But, he dominated this one, man. He dominated. The next one, too, I thought would be a little bit closer. I know that a lot of people love Salah. I love Jerome. Listen, this is the same thing that I'm talking about, is like Jerome is who I voted for because Jerome, listen, okay, here's my reasoning. It's because, okay, Salah is cool, all right? I'm not going to deny that. The Moonlight Boy, I mean, like, yeah, he's stopping Guts from going on a rampage and, he gives Casca someone to cuddle, but like, Jerome. Listen, Jerome is just a dude doing his job. He's just working for the Holy Iron Chain Knights, but he don't give a fuck. He's just like doing this. He hates his boss, which is Farnese. He's just like, yeah, I don't really care. He's not a dick. He just, doesn't care. He's just doing it for a job. He's just getting a paycheck. I think we can all relate to that. And then, he falls in love with a prostitute. We've all been there. And then, when shit hits the fan, he decides to quit his job, help the prostitute rescue the other one, and then the man goes on to fight against like all this demonic darkness. Remember, up on the top of the tower, it's Guts, Farnese, Serpico, Isidro, and then fucking Jerome. Just Jerome is there fighting alongside Guts and Serpico. And Jerome literally kills 2 pseudo-apostles by himself with one sword swing. The man is a badass. And if there's any character I ever want to see come back into the story, it is Jerome. So that's who I would have voted for, and he has the least amount of votes in this bracket. All right, so the next one here, I chose a bunch of girls from the Berserk universe. Again, I'm not surprised that Luca won. I think Luca probably has... You could argue for Jill also, actually, but I think Luca probably has the most characterization. She's a very personable, likable character. She has very motherly qualities, despite, her profession. She's she had a moment with Skull Knight. She had a moment with Jerome, but she broke up with him, so I'm a little bit bitter. I'm a little bit bitter against her because of that. Listen, Morta is my ideal lady. She's witchy, she's weird, she's got a little bit of darkness to her, she's got long dark hair. I'm a fan. But I understand as far as like characters go, we haven't really gotten enough out of her to vote. But this is favorite character. If I'm going to choose the character I'm simping over the most, it's definitely Morta. But, I'm surprised that Jill didn't get more votes. Even Danan, because Danan is pretty cool. She brought the characters into the Corridor of Dreams and created that whole process. So she's pretty cool. She's got a lot of lore to her. But it was Luca, man. I appreciate the votes for Morta, though. I do. All right, so the next one, I just kind of chose two villains and then the two Griffith's two women here. I'm not surprised that Ganishka won. I would have chose Mozgus. So again, if I was voting, Mozgus was my guy. Mozgus is a character that I like a lot more than Ganishka. He's my second favorite antagonist from the series other than Griffith himself. Charlotte is definitely, I think, a very underrated character. I think that it's not her fault that she's attracted to Griffith. She doesn't know, the backstory. She hasn't seen the things that we, the audience, have seen. She's only seen him be like that presentable, noble, powerful leadership kind of guy, the guy that rescues her from the tower. I mean, it's just like, it's a fairy tale. Like, he comes and rescues her from the bad guy from the tower. Like, he's a prince. He's a knight in shining armor, like, literally. So you can't really blame her for her affections to him. Also, the length she goes to help him, like the fact that she would go and help rescue him from the dungeon and then like literally jump in front of a poison dart to protect him. Like, I don't have any women in my world that would jump in front of a poison dart to protect me. So like, when you find one, you got to keep that shit. And so I would have voted, if not for Mozgus, I would have voted for Charlotte, but Ganishka won by a large amount there. So crazy. Next I chose the God Hand. I'm not surprised about this one. Okay, I always say that Conrad is my favorite God Hand member because I just think he's kind of funny. Like, he's just like the fat one in the corner that's just kind of laughing. Like, I don't know. Like, Ubik would be annoying because he talks too much. Slan, whore princess of the Uterine Sea. You don't want that. Void, you just can't trust him. I think Conrad is a bro. But voting-wise, I probably would have also voted for Void because, big brain. So I understand that one. The next one, this was just like where I was getting to the point where I just needed to throw characters together. There wasn't really a theme. But again, this one really surprised me. I didn't expect Devalero to win. And in all honesty, I probably did expect Godo to win. But I thought Flora and the Count would get a lot more votes than they did. Flora obviously trained Shirake. We learned a lot about magic from her. She's the one that first put the idea of putting the seal to kind of block the effects of the brand on Guts. She literally like sacrificed herself going up in a wall of flames to get the other characters out of there. She came back in the dream sequence. She has a connection with Skull Knight. She's got all this lore. But Godo is just a dude that's like, I make swords. And that's what I do. And that's what I've always done. And I don't question it. But he also gave Guts the speech in Cracks in the Blade about, needing to face his sadness and stuff. So he's got, I'm not surprised he won, but I'm just surprised that Flora didn't get a little bit more votes to kind of be closer. The next one here, this one was a little bit surprising too, because I thought Daibo would definitely win this one because he's got a lot of magical abilities. He's a pretty cool character. He's floating around, smoking a hookah. I didn't think Laban or Mule would win. But I didn't think Azan would win. I thought Daibo would take this one. So I was a little bit surprised about that one, too. The next one, again, just a bunch of characters. This one surprised me as well. Isma won this by 52%. Now, I like Isma. Who doesn't like a fishy girl? But, I thought Gaston would sweep this one. Gaston was just a wholesome dude. He just wanted to open a clothing store. But Isma just tore through this one, so I was kind of surprised about that also. This one also surprised me. So in this matchup, I tried to choose the most wholesome characters versus the most depraved characters. So I have Wild, who is the most disgusting character in the entire series, and then I had Chich, who is the most wholesome, feel good character that you could possibly think of. I thought Chich was going to win. I didn't think there was any way in hell any other character would win this. And then Erica just comes out of nowhere. It wins it at 46%. Erica's fine. She's kind of like a Rickart's little sister. She was, raised by Godo. She's cute. She's wholesome. But, she doesn't have as much impact on the story as Chich has. And I thought, Wild would get a lot of votes because I thought this is where, the troll voting would come into play. But somehow Erica won this, so that blew my mind also. Next one, okay, so this is when I was going 2x2. Skull Knight versus Ganishka. I think this one was a given. That's just unfortunate matchup for Ganishka, so that one makes sense to me. Salat versus Azan, that also makes sense. I think that Salat is probably the better character all around, although I do like Azan a lot, but just, yeah. Judo versus Isma, that was a slaughter. But these are the characters you chose to win. These are the characters that you chose from the 4x4. So the matchups might seem uneven, but it's all coming from that original grouping. So I don't know, man. Then we got Erica versus Luca. Yeah, Erica had no chance here. So that's not surprising. Shirke versus Void. This one was an interesting one because Void doesn't really have a whole. We don't really. A lot of the appeal of Void's character is us not knowing a lot about him, whereas Shirke we know pretty much everything about. But Void has that mystery to him, which makes him kind of compelling. It makes him scary. It makes him ominous. But I feel like with Void, the less you know about his character, the better, and that's probably what led to this. Then we have Godo versus Zod. I thought this one would be a little bit closer because of how extreme people voted for Godo before, but Zod won this one. And Zod just tore through this competition too, man. Like, Zod, I mean, I understand, dude. I understand. Zod is, he's motherfucking Zod. What can you say? Skull Knight versus Salat. I was expecting this one to be a little bit closer. I probably would have voted for Skull Knight also, but I didn't think Salat would get like 5% of the vote. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous because Salat has a lot of stuff that he's done. He's contributed to the story in many different ways, but there was just no hope here. There's just no hope whatsoever. 95%. So that's crazy. Judo versus Luca, I also thought would be a lot closer. Like, it is insane to me how many fans Judo had. Like, Judo is such a fan favorite character. Don't get me wrong, I like Judo. But of like the original Band of the Hawk, like I like Rickert the best because of his progression. And Judo is just like one of those characters that just people just love, man. So he got pretty far. Then we have Zod versus Shirke. This one was a strange one because I would say Shirke is probably the better character here. But I think just the presence of Zod, just the feeling you get when he comes into the story, the moments that he has, the peaks of the story that he has when he's there, that's probably what won Zod over Shirke. So I get it, man. I get it. Then I decided to do a redemption round because I really got down to a set of 8 characters. I felt like the final bracket needed 8. That way Zod had 2 matchups instead of just 1 because I felt like it wasn't fair to just give him 1 matchup. So I was like, all right, we'll do a redemption round. We'll bring Farnese and Serpico back, and we'll see who wins this. And shockingly, Farnese won, even though Serpico got more votes than her in the bracket of 4. But here, Farnese got more. I wanted to include Farnese because I really do think she is one of the best characters in the story in its entirety. And like I said, I do think she has the most character development other than Guts himself. And she's a phenomenally written character from start to finish. She has a lot going on. She has a lot of development, a lot of things going on psychologically that are concerning, but also seeing her progress and kind of move past that, you know? So, but anyways, Judo versus Skull Knight. Just a crazy difference from the amount of votes that Judo got winning his rounds before, 85% here. And then when he went up against Zod, like only 26%. I mean, went up against Skull Knight, only 26%. It just shows you how much pull, how much strength that Skull Knight has on the Berserk community. Because, I mean, he is the Skull Knight. He is the Skull Knight. So I get it. Zod versus Farnese. Again, absolutely surprised by how much Zod led the charge. I think by this point, people just wanted to see Zod versus Skull Knight, and that's why I put him on 2. They were like the number 1 and number 2 seeds. Like, I put them on the opposite ends because I assumed they would get closer. But I never expected Zod to dominate this much by this much of a difference, and especially against Farnese, who Farnese is like one of the best written characters. I would say Farnese is a better written character, but Zod, I guess he just has more impact on the story at certain points, certain peaks of the story. So that's how that ended up. And then the finale, the final round, Skull Knight versus Zod, a fight that has happened multiple times in the manga, although that we never get to actually see. We only hear about it or we see the end result of. We never actually get to see them really fight. And I'm hoping at some point that we do. But again, Skull Knight just dominated this one. He just swept. Zod only got 19% in this instance, where Skull Knight just kind of ran the entire poll. So I'm a little bit surprised. So these things surprised me, man. I was surprised by what characters you picked in some polls, and I was also surprised numerous times just how much other characters won against the other. Like, I'm not surprised that Skull Knight won, but I'm surprised that he won by as much as he did. The same thing with, Farnese versus Zod. I guess I can understand why Zod won, but 72% to 28% is crazy. And seeing how many people loved Judo throughout this entire process, and then he lost to Skull Knight, only getting 26%. Man, I mean, you guys surprised me. You guys really, really surprised me. There are characters that I thought were going to get into the final 8, never even got close. There are characters that once they got in there, they swept by a landslide that I never saw coming. So I think I can say at the very end of this bracket that I think I have very different opinions about a lot of these characters than you guys do. And while reading the comments, I was attempting to understand. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised that Skull Knight won. You know, maybe since I excluded Guts, Casca, Griffith, maybe I should have excluded Skull Knight also. But I didn't. I honestly think thought he would have had more competition. I honestly thought between characters like Farnese and Puck and Zod, you know, Salat and Godo, like other characters, I didn't think it was going to be as dominating as it was. But I learned something with this tournament, so that is the end result. So if you guys have been following along, if you've been doing this for the month long that I've been doing this tournament, well, we have finally reached the end. So let me know what you guys think about it down below. Those are my thoughts, comments. That's my commentary on the situation, but let me know what you guys think. If you like this video and you like the idea of the poll in general, give it a thumbs up, give it a comment. Let me know what you guys think, and I appreciate you guys. If you want to support the channel on a deeper level, down below in the description, I have channel memberships turned on, Patreon, merch store, all that fun junk, all the social media links where you can follow me. Other than that, guys, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later.